A déjà vu is actually a glitch in reality, and it indicates that something has just been changed. Someone or something has ceased to exist. All memories and records of their existence erase forever. A déjà vu happens when they get into your brain, when they need to change your memories, maybe to erase your brother from the world. You know, the brother you never had. There was a young boy who had got given a big clown doll for his birthday. The doll was almost as tall as him, with 6 fingers. The boy asked his parents if they knew why the doll had 6 fingers, but no one knew. As nightfall came, the little boy placed the clown doll on his rocking chair and then climbed into bed. He woke up to a horrible sound. Squeak, squeak, squeak. He sat up, rubbed his eyes, and looked around, but he didn't see anything, so he got up and checked to see if the window was shut, and it was, so he climbed back into bed. The next morning he told his parents what had happened the night before. His parents just shrugged it off and told him it must have just been a nightmare. Nightfall once again came, but this time it came with a storm. The little boy went into his room, made sure the window was closed tight, and then climbed into bed. He woke up again to the same sound. Squeak, squeak, squeak. He sat up, saw the rocking chair moving, and was now shaking in fright. The lightning struck, and within that split second of the lightning striking, he saw the clown doll standing upright with a knife in his hand, with blood dripping off of it. The clown walked up to the little boy, who was scared and crying out for help. The clown held the knife to the little boy's neck and killed him. The next morning, one of the family's friends came over for a visit, but instead she was greeted to a horrible sight. The whole family had been murdered, and the little boy's body was found with him holding the knife and the clown doll next to him, who had a big smile on its face, now with 7 fingers instead of 6. 7 fingers for 7 dead families. I was visiting my dad in Portland, as his job required a temporary relocation from Michigan. My mother, brother, and myself took 10 days hitting spots all over Oregon and Washington State. We ended up at Multnomah Falls, a popular state park and tourist attraction. When we flew back to Michigan, he was going through his camera while he listened to the news and heard that someone had died at the falls that day. It's not uncommon for suicides to happen in places like the falls, but as he was scrolling through the pictures, he was curious at what time the suicide occurred, because my dad had one of those cameras that time-stamped every photo. The news reported the time of the body's discovery, as my dad fell onto a picture time-stamped at 3 minutes prior to that time. At the top of the falls in my family photo, there stands a man at the edge, minutes from jumping to his death. I live on the top floor of a 5-story apartment building in a big city. My apartment has 1 bedroom and a fairly large living room with big windows out towards the street and the opposing building. That building has a small parking lot up front, so it's not directly across from mine, which I kind of like because of the privacy. Being a night owl, I like to sit up late with my laptop. Sometimes I peek out the window at the building across, looking for lit windows and wondering if anyone else is out there doing the graveyard shift. Last night, I wish I hadn't. I usually sit with my laptop facing the windows. For the last couple of nights, I had, in the corner of my eye, been seeing a sparsely lit window in the building across, and in it, I saw some sort of movement. Last night, my curiosity got the best of me, so I put my computer down and went over to the window to check it out. Surely enough, you could see someone waving, but just barely. The window was dimly lit, but you could definitely see some movement. I thought about it for a second and went to get a pair of binoculars. After some searching, I found a pair and went back to the window, putting them to my eyes. I located the window and got a better look at what was in it. It appeared to be a person, lit up by a candle. I couldn't make out the person's face, but he was waving. At me, apparently, because after I had locked onto him with the binoculars, he stopped waving for a second, and then pointed at me. I felt a chill go down my spine. This was getting creepy. He pointed at me, then made a circulating motion with his finger. He kept doing this over and over until I realized he was signaling me to turn around. I reacted out of instinct and quickly turned around, as if I really were expecting something to lurk behind me. Nothing was there but darkness, obviously. So I chuckled to myself and turned back to the window with my binoculars, only to find it empty, except for the candle slowly fading out. I jumped back and dropped the binoculars on the floor, the noise of the impact spooking me even more. What the hell? I thought to myself as I went back to my computer. I put on some music to calm me down and surfed around a bit more until I looked at the time and realized it was about to get light out. I put my computer down and made my way through a small hallway that led to my bathroom. I didn't have any lights on, but as I approached the bathroom, I noticed a flickering light underneath the door. My body froze. Even if I did forget to turn off the bathroom light, a light bulb could not produce that kind of lighting. I slowly walked up to the door, took a deep breath, and lightly pushed the door open. I stepped inside, and to my horror, I found a candle sitting in the sink, revealing a message scribbled on the mirror: "Never turn around." I love jigsaw puzzles, so when I found one on my phone that allowed me to take and make any size puzzle I want with a snap of a picture, I was hooked. I started by taking pictures of random shots in my room. Clicked, cut, then mix and poof. I was off wasting time. After about 30 minutes of putting my room back together, I decided to take a picture of myself to cut up and puzzle. I decided to cut the picture for the puzzle at an expert difficulty. It was pretty awesome seeing my face split into hundreds of different puzzle pieces, each one flaking off one by one like an ember to the floor of the screen. After an hour of reconstructing my face, I noticed something in the background of the puzzle that resembled an unfamiliar black leather jacket hanging at the top of my closet door. 2 more pieces revealed what looked to be a medium-length auburn-colored wig, while another piece showed eyes, apparently painted on the back of eyelids. The final piece of the puzzle showed a face missing its mandible. I'll admit, I was a bit unhinged at the sight of it, a bit puzzled even. Coincidentally, my mandible would wind up being the last piece of his puzzle too. She lay still in the darkness, not daring make a single sound. For hours she had lay awake in her pitch-black room, shivering with terror. She held herself tightly as not to ruffle the sheets, which she gripped with vice-like strength. She chewed on her tongue as to ensure that her teeth not chatter, ignoring the taste of her own warm, salty blood. She dared not make the softest whisper for fear of unsettling the beast which sat in the corner of her chamber. She awoke hours ago to a faint breeze which tingled down her spine, rattling her core, and suddenly was shook by a hot burst of air rushing against her skin. The shock of the chill and sunburst startled her as she awoke to the sight of bright yellow-green eyes that watched over her that night. For hours now she had gripped her sheets, depressed on her tongue, and has been sweating drops of terror from her skin. She felt the heavy yellow glow press down upon her like a megaton, perversely watching her cower under her soft quilt. She began to grow tired and her eyelids drooped, and she was finally at rest for the first time in hours. When she opened her eyes again, the yellow light blinded her, and without a sound, her demonic intruder was face to face with her. In this moment, she shrieked out a primal scream of sheer terror, which the creature bathed in with great pleasure, as it seemed to feed on her very fear. The next morning, she awoke perfectly fine, as if nothing had occurred that night. She assured herself that it was simply a nightmare. As she stood up, she realized that the window was open, and in that moment she felt the cold breeze that awoke her last night. That's when she saw the claw marks which scratched her window frame and ran up and down the bricks of the side of her house. She took a deep breath and prepared to let out a scream like the scream she unleashed that night, but, to her horror, she was incapable of uttering a single sound. The creature had devoured her voice.